Si alguien puede, eres tú. Aunque pa' casa no ha llegado la luz. Gracias a Dios porque tengo salud. La vida no tiene repetición. Después que mami me echa la bendición. Yeah. No te preocupes, estamos bien. ¿Cómo?
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining today. We were listening to Bad Bunny, Estamos Bien. That was my song choice. And I can share a little bit about why I chose this song. One, my go-to for a serotonin boost is Bad Bunny. I can't help but smile and dance. And the song, it says, "Don't worry, we're gonna be all right." And I feel like it's just a way for it to ground me, and with all the things going on and so many crises, we're gonna be all right. And it's just such a pleasure to be in this work with you all. So hope you enjoyed that intro. Welcome again to Boards and Resource Development. We are now on the third session out of four board development series with Civic Lab. Welcome again. I'm glad you were able to join us today. And with that, I'll go ahead and pass it over to my colleagues at Civic Lab.
Welcome and all. Thank you so much, Jane. This is Tom Tresser. I'll be your one of your co-pilots today. Just to remind everyone that the Civic Lab is a Black-led nonprofit do tank for social justice and grassroots capacity building. So we're all about information, activation, and liberation. And of course, our host and sponsor is the Illinois Access to Justice Coalition. And the two key drivers of that coalition would be the Resurrection Project, for which Jane works, and the Westside Justice Center, which is also doing a series of trainings very similar to what we're offering you guys. So this is a sort of a giant a training squadron here that we've got flying across the skies. The Civic Lab offers a lot of organizing training across a couple of different buckets of organizing, campaigning, privatization, how to look at the budget. We've got White Privilege 101. We've got nonprofit management, which you're experiencing with these trainings, and as well as classes on civic engagement. And we also organize Harambes, which is Swahili for let's all pull together, sort of giant community celebrations and brainstorming sessions. You can find out more about that at powerinstitute.us. And we also offer the book, Chicago is Not Broke, $5 billion of sustainable answers, my friends. Don't let them fool you and tell you that there's no money in the pot. This book proves otherwise. And that's a little bit about us. I'll just now turn it over to Ahmed Johnson.
So how is everybody this afternoon? Jane, thank you so much for that song. Me and afternoons are rough, okay? I'm a morning person to be sure. I never took a class past 12:50 in college, so that lets you know. So thank you for that. It was definitely a serotonin boost. Okay, so today I just wanna go over what we're gonna be covering. Our agenda today, we're going to go over we're going to do introductions and check-ins in a second. Then we're going to cover some topics about what they always and rarely tell you when it comes to fundraising. Also, the must-haves and checkup. That's going to be a small group breakout activity that we're going to do. Then we're going to go on break for about 30 minutes. And then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about the board roles in resource development and how you can work with your board to raise funds for your organization. You guys are going to actually get to develop your elevator pitch that you would be giving to somebody that is a potential donor. We'll break out in small groups for that. And then we're going to come back and do questions, comments. We'll do some evaluations, and then we will adjourn for the afternoon. Okay. So as Jane said, we're here from the Civic Lab. I'm Amma Johnson, and today we'll be doing our training with both Tom Tresser and Philip Thomas. A little bit about me. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Ubuntu Institute for Global Learning. I know most of you have been on the last two trainings, so you probably don't need to know too much more about me. But that's, what I do. And I also am a trainer for Civic Lab. And I'm a warrior for social justice, and that's why I'm here today. Okay. I'd like for Philip and Tom to introduce themselves. And then I have a question for you all before we get started. Okay. Philip, take it away.
Good morning. Good afternoon. I'm sorry. My name is Philip Thomas. I'm really excited to be with you all today. I'm a trainer here and I'm the board member of the of Civic Lab, and I'm just excited to be here today. I've been in nonprofits and around boards, training in boards, being member of boards, working with boards in many different capacities. So I'm really excited to let you all know more about what that's all about.
And I'm Tom Tresser. I'm the co-founder and COO of the Civic Lab. I call myself a civic educator and a public defender. And why I do this work, basically, I want America to live up to the hype. I want America to be its best self. And all the shining words that are engraved in places and embroidered over the fireplace. I naively believe in all that, and I guess we all do too, or else we wouldn't be doing this work. And so I'm here to help us all get to that better place, a better city, a better state, and a better country. So let's buckle up and jump on in.
Okay, and so now we want to hear from you guys. I know there's two different organizations here, so I do want you to represent who you are and your organization, your role in the organization. But then I want you to think about if you had the opportunity to blink yourself somewhere, anywhere it could be, where would it be? And if you choose to say why, go ahead, just stay under 30 seconds. Okay, so why don't we start with, or why doesn't somebody just want to jump in? How about that? Or I will call on people.
Okay, I'll start, because every time this is like from last time, every time you say you're going to call.
Susan, next time I'm going to be like a real teacher. I'm like, no, not Susan. I'm going to call on somebody else, but take it away.
Okay, my name is Susan Schulman. I'm the executive director of the North Suburban Legal Aid Clinic. If I had the opportunity to blink myself somewhere, I don't know, I think it's obvious I'd be in Hawaii. Why? Because it's Hawaii. Come on. Okay.
I gotcha. You can choose anybody else on the call you want.
I have to choose people?
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
Man, I'm just going to look at the first name I see. Allison. Sorry, you were the first name I saw.
Allison, I don't see you, but you might have to unmute yourself.
Did I unmute myself?
There you go.
You're there.
My name is Allison Hamilton. I work at Binational Institute of Human Development. I'm the administrator and program manager. And if I could blink myself anywhere, I'd like to blink myself to the dawn of mankind, to learn where we started, how we started, and how we came to be where we are today, how we got here. That would be me. And I don't know anybody else on this. So let's see. Next, I guess Netza, I'll just take it easy. My colleague Netza.
Hi, everybody. Netza Roldan from the Binational Institute of Human Development. I would like to bring myself to Iceland. my favorite place, Iceland. And I will pass it to Jessica.
Hi, how are you? My name is Jessica Mendez. I'm the Director of Operations here in Binational Institute. I would love to be in Florida right now, definitely. I will pass it on to Julia.
Hi, everyone. My name is Julia Albarracin. I'm the Executive Director of West Illinois Dreamers. And today I would like to bring myself to Chicago, actually, because I heard it's very sunny there and here it's pouring rain and it's dark and ugly.
Julia, where are you? I'm sorry, Julia, where are you?
In Central Illinois, Macomb, Illinois.
Got it. Okay. Who wants to be next? Let's see.
Oh, I was supposed to call on somebody, right? Andrea.
Is Andrea here? Okay, let's go with somebody else. Maybe, have we heard from Maria?
No, not yet. Hi, my name is Maria Piña. I work at the Chicago Workers Collaborative. I'm the manager of the immigration programs. And if I could blink myself, I guess I would say Florida. Right now we have kind of a cold weather, so Florida, would be wonderful.
Got it.
Thank you.
Mayon?
Hi, everyone. I'm Mayan Yun from the National Immigrant Justice Center. I'm the Director of Development there. And I think I would choose to put myself instantly in Taiwan, which is where my extended family is. And I haven't seen them in years because, I only go every few years or so. And then because of the pandemic, I didn't go the last time I was supposed to. And yeah, I would love to see them again. I can call on someone. Nadia?
Hello, everybody. This is Nadia from Muslim Women Resource Center. Well, I would like to be in Dubai since I haven't been traveled internationally for a while now.
Awesome. Who has Rosie?
Yes, good morning. Good morning, everyone. I'm Rosy Carrasco from Chicago Community and Workers' Rights, and I would like to be in Guadalajara, Mexico, where my sister lives, and I know that it's beautiful now. Thank you. And I don't know who else is missing.
I think, did we touch on everybody? I believe we got everybody. Well, welcome, welcome, welcome. There was a trend there. Everybody likes the warm weather. I'm feeling that wanting to get home to family. I just came from family from Ghana and I can't wait to get back there. So if I could blink myself anywhere right now, I would be in Winneba, Ghana as we speak. And maybe the next time we speak in the wintertime, you just may see me from there. So who knows? All right, well, let's get started. I think, Phil, it's on you. Philip, unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. Perfect.
All right, is that better? Okay. All right, let me start again. So this morning, we're talking about the board's role in resource development. And this is all in context of having a healthy, strong nonprofit. So what we want to have to understand is we have a nonprofit is a very complex organization. It's like an animal, a critter, a pet, or something that needs care and feeding. And so we have to be mindful of all of the parts of it. And earlier we did our workshop addressing different parts of the board. And what we want to remember about boards and board work in general and nonprofits in general is that it's kind of a misnomer, because to call nonprofits nonprofit, in a way, it gives the impression that they don't have to be run like businesses. And their structure and all of those things that make up a nonprofit, as you see on this diagram, are what we're talking about. And all of them are important to know how your nonprofit functions.
Philip, this is you too.
Sorry. So if you want to link to this video of today's session, this is what the slide, you can, we'll have this also in the chat notes.
Okay, so what are we talking about today? We're talking about board, and how do we utilize board for fund development? How do you also work with the board for fund development? And you heard Philip talk about this organization being like a complex thing. Fund development is this complex thing, and yes, it is. It's more than just writing a grant. Okay, there's development directors. I believe there's at least one development director on in the training, and we know that if you only focus on one aspect of your fund development, you're going to have trouble. Okay, so what we have in front here is a good breakdown of how a nonprofit should be looking at its resource development, looking at diverse funding streams, and looking at how much really they should be breaking down in those different areas so that they don't run into problems. And the ones that we're going to be focusing on today are the ones that we would be working with the board to absolutely do that, okay? So let's just look at this very quickly. One of the reasons why it's very important not to focus on just one section is because who remembers when Governor Rauner, for at least a year and a half, sat on the state budget and didn't pass anything? There were organizations that drastically, yes, Susan, right. So you know what happened to your budget as a result. You know what happened to your programming as a result. And unfortunately, as a result of that, there were some organizations that had a shutter as a result, because their funding was heavily reliant on government funds. So a good rule of thumb is not to have most of your funding coming, 50% or more of your funding coming out of one funding stream. So here we have earned income. Okay, that means maybe your organization charges program fees or membership fees. Okay, maybe some of us in the room today are doing that, maybe some of us don't. Okay, but if you do have something like that, you want to make that the lion's share of the funding that you have coming in the door. The next thing that you want to look at, I sort of jerry-rigged this a little, okay, to sort of fit who we are in the room. I had dropped the earned income down to 30%. But then also I looked at government. You might run into a problem if you have that much that you're reliant on the government. I would drop that to about 10%. And then you have individual donors. This is where your board comes in, okay? They're saying about 8%. I say use your board, bring that up to about 20%. That's a good ballpark, okay? People aren't going anywhere. Their funding may fluctuate a little, but they're not going anywhere. And you can utilize your board to continue to impress upon them to give. All right, then you have your foundations. I put that down at about 13%. I increased that a little because once you get with a foundation and you've got a good reputation, you can have multiple funding year after year. Then we're looking at bequests, okay, or bequests, excuse me. That is about 2%. Your board members as well can be helping you connect to individuals who want to give once they pass, okay? And then we have 10% corporations. These are your national and multinational corporations. And then 5% other, which is your special events, fundraisers, partnerships, things of that nature. So this is a good rule of thumb when you're looking at how you want to diversify your funding streams to have a healthy budget. And the ones that are circled are where you want to definitely plug in your board of directors. Go on to the next one. So, Phil, this is you. Well, I can jump in. So, oh, there you are. You're muted again, Philip. There you go.
All right. So how many people in the audience are aware of what their mission statement is of their organization and can say that what that is? It's important because your mission statement of your organization drives all the development and delivery of. So if you could right now, everybody that's on the chat, in the chat, can you put down whether or not your organization has a mission statement? And if that mission statement is something that you think is compelling, reveals the core of the purpose of your organization. It's important, as the mission statement of the organization is important, obviously in the research and prospecting for the donors as a tool so they can understand why they should support the organization. And then you should also understand that the quality of your application materials, anything that has to do with putting out the image and the brand of the organization, has to be of high quality. So it's important that your organization, again, in this idea that it's really a business, it's important that it operates as a brand, its reputation, how well it's known. Your executive director, in a lot of ways, is almost the personal interface in the public of your organization. They're part of your brand. There are actually different layers of brand ambassadors in a nonprofit. And part of that is actually the board of directors and really everybody who's associated with the organization or represents the organization. The mission statement, and also talks about the location, who you serve, how unique and effective you are in delivering the services you're talking about.
You know, can I go back real quick? I just wanted to make sure we put a pin in that last component where it's critical relationships to funders and local civic influences. We're going to be talking about that later on. And Netza, that goes to what we were talking about last week, or in our last meeting around board development and cultivation and who you're targeting for your board, because your board members will be critical in this component here. So that's why it's good to know, you know, to be identifying board members that can help you in certain areas, and critical relationships is one of them.
Correct. Thank you, Florence.
Okay. Then it's also important in the resource development area to understand why donors give. They give to make a difference. They give to demonstrate their commitment. They give to by responding to an invitation to somebody from someone they respect. A lot of fundraising, in fact, board development work, bringing people onto your board, is about invitations between people who are part of a network or even a family. People donate also to join with others in that they know and trust, to get a common goal accomplished, to address a common problem. A lot of people are driven to the organization because of a cause. They want to be involved in something. They want to give back to the community. Sometimes the things are very close to their hearts. Maybe it's something that has to do with a personal situation or something in their past. A lot of donors give to organizations they grew up with and associated with when they were younger. And then the whole clarity about the organization's need for resources. It's very important in these days when resources are scarce that we be clear in our understanding of, in our communication of what our needs for. And donors, when they receive appropriate, respectful acknowledgement, tend to give more. And that's part of a general process called stewardship, where you develop a relationship and with the donor, between you and the donor. And part of that is acknowledging when they give, that encourages them to give more. Now, on the flip of that, there are reasons why people don't give. And that one of that is they gave a gift and solicitation didn't come to them. Sometimes people don't give because they don't know they were supposed to give. No one asked them, no one gave them information. They didn't steward that gift. The organization didn't include them in plans or programs. So there was no way of knowing if you had an impact or if you had input and there was a way to get that across. No one asked them to give again or consider giving more or to help them or to give again. There's this whole really, if you think about it, it's like any kind of relationship. If that relationship doesn't have respectful reciprocation and clear communication, it can't go forward. But when it does, that's when the magic happens. That's when the success happens with building your nonprofit, with building your fundraising effort, and bringing in more funds for your organization.
Can I add here that this is where a resource development department or a resource development director, I know some of you are probably one-person departments, but this is where you can utilize your board. You can have your board help you acknowledge by breaking them up into groups and taking different donors and just acknowledging that way, but making them a part of that process will help you. It might feel burdensome at first to set all that up, but after a while, when it gets going and you're engaging the board members in that process, they're going to also be looking forward to it as well, and it becomes easier. So I don't know if you're already doing that. Some of you are not, but I would suggest that you start to engage your board in that process. I was able to do that when I used to work for the YMCA of Metropolitan Chicago, and our development team absolutely was engaging the board in helping us to stay engaged with our donors. All right, so it's on me. So there's some must-haves. When you are seeking funding, you have to have these things. You have to know what these things are, right? So one is alignment. Your alignment is mission and vision. Is your mission and vision aligned with donors, potential donors, funders? You have to have that alignment with them. They have to see that connection. Okay, that's what we were talking about when Philip was giving you a rundown. Some connection there. There has to align. You have to have a package. And that is it's a set of documents that's ready to go. Those set of documents, they're different pieces of the puzzle that you may be picking and choosing for different things that you need to either give to a prospective funder, a prospective donor, for a proposal. Okay, so there's a package that you need to have, and that should really rest on somebody's shared drive or on the organization's shared drive so that you can get at that. And then you also need to have a process that's put in place. And that's a system that includes calendarization, grants management, research, prospect research, roles and responsibilities. All that should be put in place, okay? And that is something that you would share with your board, and we'll talk about that as we get further along. And politics. Netza, I'm gonna go to you again, okay? Remember we were talking about that. You've got to know your public officials and policy environment. I'm going to give you a list of those people that you need to know. You want to have board members that may be connected to those people, okay? So.
Yes.
We can go on to the next. So, alignment and board, okay? Your board plays a critical role in keeping your organization focused and meeting its mission and having proper resources to do so, okay? One of your board members' key role is to connect the organization to aligned individuals and funding prospects, okay? They are stewards of keeping your organization accountable to its mission. Okay, so what do we have here? We're talking about alignment. And it says, you're a square peg trying to fit into a round hole. It says, no, I'm a square peg trying to get out of a round hole and I'm friggin' stuck. So that is one thing that I always tell people. You must have alignment when you're looking for funders, whether they be individual funders, whether they be, individual donors, whether they be foundations, whether they be corporations, multinational corporations. You need to have alignment, okay? And you use your board members in that prospect management of that. You use them to see if they know anybody on other boards or other foundations or leadership. Okay, you will use them. Okay, and then you will, or you may know some people that a board member may be able to connect you to. But you want to make sure you're aligned. You don't want to waste your time. You don't want to waste the funders' time, potential funders' time. You don't want to waste a potential contact. You don't want to waste your board members' time. So you want to make sure everything is aligned. And the other thing too is, if you find out that you have tried to accept money that is out of alignment and your programming doesn't fit, somewhere down the line, you may run the risk of having to give that money back. And that's not something that your board would be fond of you doing, right? And also you have to also protect the organization when you have board members that may have somebody who's willing to give money to the organization, but doesn't fit. And you don't want to get into the habit of mission creeping. So you wouldn't accept that. So you want to make sure that you and your board members are aligned on what the mission is and aligned on what funding you're trying to go after. It may be for different programs in different times of the year or different years. So you want to make sure that they're aligned with you on that, okay? Next. Okay, we talked about that package, right? And I said that package really is a document that lives on a shared drive, a shared server with notations on when and who should update them. Because I'm sure at this point, most organizations are operating off of a shared drive. But there's nothing like going to that shared drive and seeing antiquated information. You can't send that to a potential funder. And you don't want to send that to a board member, right? So you do want to identify somebody who is updating that at all times and making it plain so people know where to get it when they need to give it to somebody, okay? You need to have a mission statement that's probably a 2-pager that has your mission and your vision that summarizes your organization. This is something also you want to make sure that your board members have when they are going to talk to prospective donors on your behalf. Okay, you're going to articulate a case statement of why your organization exists. We're going to talk about that later on in the training, okay? And you guys are going to get a chance to start to develop your own case statements. And there's a lot that goes into a case statement. So it's just pretty much knowing what to say, knowing what pieces you need to pull out when you're going to solicit a potential donor. You want to have nice brochures that have nice images that sort of show your organization or show your program in action and explains what your program does. Not into too much detail, but good bullet points. You want to have bios of key staff and board members, your direct, all like your middle and upper level leadership, and definitely your board of directors should be there. Whoever's ahead of your programs as well. Your latest annual budget. I'm going to say that again for all the development directors who know what I'm talking about. Your latest annual budget, always. And your latest annual report. Now, some organizations do it annually, some do it biannually, okay? So, but as long as that's something that most organizations, funders are looking for that. So make sure you have that. If you don't have that, put that into development. And then personal testimonies from people served. So have something that you can, that your donors, your board members can give to somebody and say, look at, these are the testimonies. This is the impact that this organization has made. Okay. So that package really does need to live somewhere in plain view for people. All right. The process. Everybody should be aware of the process. For my development directors who pull their hair out because people aren't paying attention to when reports are due or when you're going to re-up on a grant and you need to, the process, everybody needs to know the process. And if you're utilizing your board in fundraising, they absolutely need to know the process, okay? So what does it include? It includes prospect management. Okay, prospect research. You are utilizing your board members to connect you to potential donors, potential funders. Okay, they can be very, very helpful. And that's why it's key in how you develop your board. You don't want everybody to fall in the same area, and then you don't have people that can connect you to other things. Okay.
Ooh, can I jump in for a second?
Sure.
Hey, a good exercise in that space right there, when you're talking about friends of the board, it's sort of having an unpacking session with your board and senior staff, and it's kind of like you go around the table and go, who knows who?
Yeah.
Who knows what? So what school did you go to? Are you a member of the tennis club? Are you a PTA member? So it's kind of like an exhaustive unpacking, person by person, in a systematic way, and the staff person would be there to take notes on all that. And then at the end of that meeting, you've got quite a lot of to-dos and to sort, to say, oh my goodness, we could reach out to alumni associations or PTAs, or so many things you can do. But the point is, we know more than we think we know, and sometimes we have to be systematic to unpack all those relationships.
And actually, Tom, I've heard examples of that where, like, I actually participated where you turned it into almost bingo. Are you getting this feedback that I'm getting? Okay, that's better. It's you have a like, almost, you set it up almost like a bingo party, where there's competition between people to come up with names and associations of people. And if you take it out of the context of something that's like, well, give me this exhaustive list, you have different kind of prompts. And sometimes you could come up with names that people didn't even think of, just through having that kind of a process where it's maybe a little bit more social and less formal.
And I can't say enough how important this piece of the process is. When I tell you that there are organizations that have whole departments that are just solely focused on prospect research. So it's almost expected that when people are approached, it's going to be a who knows who. And it's serious business, you guys, especially when you get up there in the C-suite, when you're talking about corporations and things of that nature. It really is a who's who. And they're only going to talk to certain people and things of that nature. It's a real thing. So yeah, it can be really, really formal and daunting like that, or it can be fun. And I would say keep it on the fun side, and that keeps your board members engaged. Keep it fun as they're giving names, but also make sure that you're being mindful and respectful about their contacts. I can't say enough about that. Okay. You're also going to use them to vet and prioritize new leads. They can help you with that. That's part of that bingo socialization party that you can do. And also, everybody should know what the calendar system is. When due dates are, when acknowledgements need to go out, when you're going to be utilizing the board to help you with those acknowledgements. They need to know that. They need to, put that into their schedules as well. You need to respect their time as volunteers and make sure they know well ahead that they have the time and space to do that. There's also, you need to make sure there's a clear set of roles and responsibilities for who does what, when, and where, and who's connected to the board members. Especially when you're dealing with committees, which staff members are dealing with which board committees, or just being connected to the resource development board committee and making sure that they're connected to the process. They know what proposals are going out. They know what meetings are being had. Hopefully they've helped you set up those meetings. Maybe some of those meetings they're going with you to those meetings, okay? And then also you have to have an annual review of all fundraising efforts, goals, victories, setbacks. You're gonna do that with your fundraising board committee, okay? And they will then probably report that back out to the board at large. Okay, politics. Get to know your public officials, policymakers, stakeholders that influence your area of work, whether it be federal, state, county, local, municipal, all of that. It is important. So if you don't already have people like that on your board who are connected to these individuals, make sure you get them on your board. It'd be very instrumental, okay? Because you need to be connected to your aldermen, your state reps, your state senators. These folks have money, okay? Your federal reps and federal senators. Yes, you can touch them. You absolutely can. With the right people, they are approachable and they can help you seek funding. I work for an organization, we got money from the US Department of Education. Why? Because we knew, what was it, Greg Darniter at the time? He was down there as the secretary. So because we knew people at CPS, we were connected and we were able to get funding from the Department of Education. So it's very important to have these connections, okay? Committee members, cabinet members, Department of Justice, Department of Education, HUD, etc. You wanna know people, especially those of us in this room, definitely wanna know people in the Department of Justice, right? Yes. And your county and city commissioners. I can't say enough how much Toni Preckwinkle, knowing her, having a connection to her, the amount of funding that funneled through our organization because we had that connection, or the state senator, Jackie Collins, every year. But she spoke to our alderwomen before we would get funding. So you see why it's very important that you have these connections, and it's even better when it's your board members that come a knocking. Okay?
Yeah, you know, it's really interesting. We live in Chicago and we live in Illinois, and both of them have very complex political relationships there, social relationships. A lot of these people who are on either side of the aisle have lifelong kind of personal connections, social connections. So there's that old saying about Chicago and politics. It's about who sent you. And even though we're not in the old days, a lot of that still kind of exists, and that bleeds over into funding opportunities. And so your board, again, as these brand ambassadors, are the front line in having peer-to-peer relationships with some of these very important people in politics who they might know socially, go to church with, gone to law school with, maybe even grammar school with. I know that's the case. In my case, people I went to grammar school with, the Catholic school at St. Ignatius, ended up being aldermen, judges, all kinds of things. And that definitely had an effect on different relationships and things that can happen in the board, and things that can move that way. And in Chicago, that's a very entrenched kind of social system. So I think it's kind of one of the lenses that you look at when you're thinking about your board member and what their true impact can be. It really does flow exactly with this in terms of resource development.
And that's one of the key things your board members are doing, right? They're there to raise funds for your organization. So utilize them as best you can and have them be able to raise funds in the best capacity that they can too. The other thing is you don't want to put them in situations that they don't have the capacity to do. So you have to use your board members strategically when you're raising funds, but also make sure that you are looking at who you're putting on your board, because they're going to be instrumental in that.
Absolutely. That's absolutely true. So in this whole getting of funds and getting resources from different sources, it's important that we know general terms so we can understand what any particular funding agency might want from us and be able to respond to whatever request they're making for information. These are also the same kind of things that are kind of the dashboard of the organization itself, and what a board member would look at, or the organization's executive director looks at when they're thinking about the financial health of the organization. So the annual budget it lays out all the expenses and incomes for the year. And that's obviously your main planning budget. It's in terms of what you're going to do. It's kind of the roadmap. In fact, you can look at the annual budget of an organization and understand what its real priorities are. And then there's the balance sheet. It reports the assets and what's owned, what's owed. It gives the total financial picture and that total financial condition of the year you're reporting for. Now, it's important to know in a nonprofit, you have both unearned income, which is revenue from donations, grants, and bequests and investments. You could have in-kind donations, which is meant like the lending of services. Like if somebody on the board is an accountant, they can lend in-kind services as an accountant where they're foregoing their fee, and that be part of actual revenue counted if in certain cases under, I'm not an accountant, but under those certain cases. But that's also in terms of other kind of donations of materials that the organization might get from vendors in the neighborhood or all kinds of things. And then there the earned income. Some organizations have substantial earned income. If you're a theater organization, or I worked for an organization that contracted labor, it was called a Suburban Job Link. It has substantial earned revenue from its operations, but it was also tax protected because the overall mission and all of that money went to programming, which is a key distinction when you think about a board of a nonprofit organization versus the board of a for-profit company. Because in this case, sometimes there's honorarium or different kind of compensation to board members, but most of the time, a board member of a nonprofit organization is someone who's expected to raise money and donate money. So in terms of the other terms here, there's revenue when you're talking about excess of expenses in the nonprofit. That is held usually in some kind of reserve fund for a rainy day fund or pushed over into the other year. And that it's very critical sometimes with grants that might be given over multiple years. Again, in a profit situation, that would be called profit if those funds could be distributed to the shareholders or board members or the owner of a company. But in a nonprofit, they're held for either a further year, further purpose, and that's what that revenue is. So this revenue mix, this percentage of where everything comes from, is kind of the dashboard for the financial health of the organization, but it's also key financing terms when you're approaching funders of any sort, because they're going to want to know all that organization, information about the organization. Funders give to healthy organizations more money and more often than they give to financial organizations that are shaky or have shaky looking kind of documentation.
Excuse me, it's on me now. So remember I talked to you about case statement. Well, we're at that point now. This is very important, how you articulate your case, okay? And what goes into a case statement? Well, these are the different things that go into a case statement. You have a welcome letter from the president or CEO. That letter is a brief letter, maybe 3 to 4 paragraphs at the most. If the If it's something that really the CEO has really something to say that really drives home the mission, maybe a page and a half, maybe. But I would say keep it to about 3 to 4 paragraphs. And then you're going to have your mission statement of your movement. So why do you do what you do? Okay. You're going to talk about the history and the background of the organization, how long you've been in practice, what you have done thus far since you've been around. And then also you're going to give the demographics and challenges faced by the constituents or community that you serve. Okay. And you're going to talk about crime rates, and I don't have to go into all that. You're going to talk about your demographics. What is the makeup of the group of people that you work with? Okay. And then you're going to talk about a high level overview of your key programs, maybe 2 to 3 sentences at the most about your key programs. If it's only 1 or 2, then you might want to say a little bit more. Okay. You want to really talk about how your organization is uniquely suited to deliver whatever programming you're doing and how you make impact. So you want to give them measurable results. How are you making impact? And why should they put their money behind you? Okay. Testimonials and stories from clients about impact. These are the things that really move funders. And these are the things that you want to put, I'm hearing yeah, okay. These are the things that you want to make sure that you're putting in the hands of your board members when they're going to seek funds or when they're trying to connect you to somebody who may be able to give you funds, okay, a prospect. These are the things that they're also going to give them, okay? You want to make sure you have a visibility and presence in the community. People know you are there. You have partners. You've done some things, okay? And what's your long-term strategy? What's your 3 to 5 year plan? Do you have a strategic plan? If you have, and you should have one if you don't have one, but that is something that you absolutely include with your case, okay? And then also recognizing your leadership, which is both your staff and your board, okay? I know we just had board here, but I'm gonna say staff and board. Those go hand in hand. Okay. I want to also say that all of these documents should be somewhere on somebody's computer or on a shared drive. I can't say that enough. There's nothing like trying to get your hands on something and it's sitting on somebody's computer and you can't get to it. So it should be on a shared drive that folks can get their hands on it if they need it. Okay. So with that being said, I know we said a lot. And I think we sort of went through it really fast, but do you have any questions or comments about what you've heard thus far about what resource development is, what it entails, what the diversified resource funding streams look like, and how you utilize your board within that process? Anyone? All right, Susan.
I'm just going to share one thing that we do that I think is a really easy thing to do with respect to legislators. We hold a legislative open house at least once a year, sometimes more than once a year. And we literally just have our 3 directors get up and we talk about what's going on. We make our legislative ask. But I mean, I think we got some funding recently from a legislator, and I think it's because we've done a really, we've been very active in staying in touch with them that made that happen. So just, super, super easy. It's like really easy, like literally like you have your biggest players, basically, give, here's what our needs are. Here's a case study, here's how you can help. I mean, it's pretty straightforward.
Absolutely. So, like I said, it may feel like a heavy lift in the beginning because you need to put all these things in place. But once you have them in place, it makes some of your work effortless. Yes, somebody has to keep it going. You have to identify somebody. That's somebody's responsibility to make sure that stuff is there, but it makes it effortless. It makes it easy to fundraise. And also, like Susan was saying, keeping in contact with them because that they stayed in contact with them, that helped them get the funding. Utilize your board members to stay in contact with your donors and your funders. That you can utilize your board members to do that. Matter of fact, utilize your fundraising committee to do that for you, to help you do that. Because funders are going to give to those folks that stay top of mind with them. And I used to have a colleague that I worked with. I used to think like, are you nuts? You needle and pester these people. And even we would be in meetings and they're like, because she's called so many times, but that literally got us the funding because we stayed top of mind. So find somebody who doesn't mind pestering folks. Seriously, would have been hard for me to do, but it was very easy for Megan to do. So I let Megan do that. Pester everybody. And that's what she did. She stayed top of mind on a weekly basis with people. So it's very important that you do that. Thank you, Susan, for that comment. Anybody else before we move on? Okay. All right. It's on you, Phil. Can you unmute yourself?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, you went back. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay,
yes, we can hear you.
All right. I've just been having technical things here this morning. I'm sorry. Okay. So where does your board fit in all these things that we're talking about? Let's put them almost in the rank order of what it would be in terms of your importance. When you're almost thinking about if you were trying to find the board member, what would be the overall attributes that you would need out of them? And that ties in again with that board grid that we did in the last session that everybody thought was a very good tool. So personal giving and running benefits for most kind of the broad swath of nonprofits, that's going to be the things that are kind of, key board participation rules, especially if you look at foundation giving, where they're going to want 100% of board members giving to the organization before they consider giving grants to it. It's a serious red flag if board members don't give to the nonprofit. Helping run benefits and again using their social contact is kind of very important again, especially if special events aren't so big anymore. But as we've moved to digital platforms and that kind of things, there's still kinds of ways that you can involve boards in a social way where they can connect to their networks. Their relationships, their networks are what broaden the reach of the organization, both in terms of raising money, but its mission as well. And the reputation of the board members is reflective of the reputation of the organization. They mirror each other. We talked the last time in terms of 4 attributes, the 4 W's, with wealth, meaning their ability to give, with, meaning their networks, their relationships, work, meaning their capacity and willingness to pitch in terms of maybe special events or committees, and their wisdom in terms of the operation and the nuts and bolts of what the organization does. So in the case of organizations involved with that many of you might be dealing with, if you have lawyers who were immigration attorneys or other attorneys that were directly involved in the program part, that's really important. They have high stature, maybe judges or political folks. Again, that's part of that with their reputation. If they're people that maybe give pro bono services on behalf of the organization, and that's the way they became board members, or that's the virtue of which they are board members. And again, if they can give in substantial amounts or bring other people with money to it, that's the wealth part of the W's. So I'd like to ask everybody involved, does your organization have a fundraising committee, the board? And so if you could just put yes, no, or I don't know into the chat, we'll reveal it in a quick count, but we just want to know what, and Tom could just give us the results through the chat. Let's see, is there any responses here that say no, don't know? Not sure, maybe. We don't have, some don't. I guess, actually, let me ask an additional question. Of the people involved here on the call, how many have a lot of contact around any aspect of fundraising in the organization, with either in the board or without the board? They do something with fundraising. So you could put, do you have anything to do with fundraising in your organization? Yes, no, just yes or no. I guess you would know. Okay, we get some yeses. Okay, so there's a mixed, all right, I see. So second question, does your organization then, I guess the people involved with, who've had some fundraising experience with their organization, does your organization have what's known as the case state that we talked about? So yes, does your organization have one? Yes, no, I don't know. Yes. No, not sure. No, we don't, I'm sure. All right. And again, the reason this is important is that if your board members or other key people in the organization, really anybody, is a brand ambassador of that organization for the standpoint of fundraising, then they have to know what that brand is about, or at least have that reduced into some short kind of way or key kind of understandings that everybody in the organization has. And is definitely, because your organization need this board to go out there and make these social connections and intercede on your behalf, the things in that case statement are the things that are very, very important for them to have at least a working knowledge of.
And I just want to point out there that for those organizations that don't have a case statement, you need to get a case statement. That's something that you should think about working on that sooner than later. And for those staff folks that are maybe unsure, if you do have one, the organization should make sure that everybody has that case statement. That should be for, I know that we say, oh, the resource development, yeah, we better have it, but everybody, as Philip said, is a brand ambassador for the organization. So that should be like an onboarding thing for everybody. You come into the organization, you get the case statement. If
you're absolutely right about that, Alma. I've seen it over and over, that a lot of times when people actually, who have nothing to do with the development function of the nonprofit, actually see a lot of this documentation, when they see what the mission statement and the case statement and what the various programming is outside of what their own function might be, it actually makes them more invested as staff in the organization. They take a certain amount of pride when they see things in the press, or they see the organization highlighted somewhere, or they can say specifically about the contributions of that organization. All of that material really helps morale of folks who have nothing to do with fundraising per se, but I think there's a residual effect of that in the organization that helps the health of the organization, ultimately helps it get money as well.
Absolutely. And further still, make sure that I can't say enough, I've been in development for over 30 years. When I go to a site to visit or to meet a program officer, it's always a board member and a program person. I'm the quietest person in the room. I let the board member and the program director, program coordinator, program participant, whoever it is, do the talking. So they need to know what the case statement is. They really need to know that when you're utilizing it that way. And it goes a very long way. Okay.
Well, yeah, from that perspective, you're absolutely right. I was a program officer at Foundations for about almost 20 years combined. And, you know, when you talk to the executive director, you kind of expect them to know their stuff. But when you go in a place and everybody's kind of on board that you talk to and in alignment, and a board member comes to the site visit and is conversant, and it just makes an impression because it's not what you see all the time. So when you see it, it impresses you. Oh, this is an organization that has their stuff together.
It goes a long way. I know that, and I'm going to put us out there, I'm going to shout out the Southwest Youth Collaborative. We did that well. It went a long way when we included board members in our site visits and all. It's a secret weapon. Do it. It's so impressive. You heard it right from a foundation leader's mouth. That goes a very long way. They don't want it. They like you said, the executive director is going to know, the resource director, of course. But when the board member and the program folks come in the room and everybody knows what they're talking about, pretty much guaranteed the money. Pretty much. So, okay.
All right then. So we've talked a little bit about some of these things, but I think we're getting a sense of, we want to know from the group certain things and have you talk amongst yourselves about, first of all, what are the state of your organization's fundraising muscles? We had a little bit of, have you participated in the fundraising, and maybe in the small group, you could talk specifically, if you have, maybe give an example of kind of ways you've been involved. For those of us in groups, where you're talking about your board member being involved in fundraising, how have they done that? What does that look like? Is there, Tom, is there a way enough of people where we could put the yes people with the no people? And maybe, because it seemed like there was some significant amount of people that didn't even know or whatever, if we were going to do small groups now.
All right, there'll be 3 groups of 3 people each. The trainers will be out of those groups, but they can drop in. We'll talk about that in a minute. Everyone has their discussion prompts. I put it in the chat. We'll give you 10 minutes and we'll start now.
Rosie, are you still there? The group that I was just in, I just want to just finish saying what I was saying, that, and maybe you can report on that when you're talking, but just to have you guys thought about an advisory board in addition to your, the community board, the workers board, an ancillary advisory board that can maybe be those connectors in those other areas. So report back, that might be something you guys might want to talk about.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, Philip, I think that you can go ahead while he's up.
All right. So let's just
You've got the reverb going again.
Hold on.
Mute your computer, maybe. There we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
It's still.
I think if you mute your computer, then we'll be fine with you on the phone.
All right. Is that better?
Yes.
Thank you.
100% better.
So let's report back on what we heard from some of the groups. So what is Tom, who was in the first group?
Well, it was it was Nadia and Binational Institute staff as well. So it just so happened that 2 people from the same agency were in the same group. So I'm just gonna I'm just gonna report back. So they never Binational Institute, they never had any like fundraising. That's what we talked about. And for MWRC, we did have fundraising years ago. And that was the first time that I had attended one of the fundraising events. So it was actually, it was good, but then it got like a little bit chaotic in the end because it was the first time that we were doing it. And and like we were expecting 200 people, but it turned out like more than 300 people showed up. Oh, and wow. Yeah, and it was for like, we named it like the Mother's Day fundraising event because at that time there were a lot of like refugees that were into the community, and a lot of students in our after school program were the children of those refugees, and the mothers, they were attending the English classes at our agency as well. So we were kind of, we wanted to appreciate them for for everything that they were going through, like the things they were learning at our agency, and also like how they were helping out each other and trying to integrate into the community. So in order to honor their patience and to appreciate them and encourage them at the same time, we did this event, and it did go really good at that time. And we did have a few of the board members that I know of were present, but we had invited all the board members. So I personally didn't know all of them at that time. So I got to meet with 2 of them, and they were there. And those 2, I have been seeing them like on and off, like almost at our agency. So we do know that, some board members are really involved, and yeah, like so far the fundraising event went well. But after that, our agency got really busy, so we didn't really have that much time to do another big event like that. But we'll look forward to it once we have more staff coming in.
Utilize your board. Utilize your board.
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones. Do you have a fundraising committee of the board? They're the ones that can drive those special events. And then you can have you can have staff members that fold in versus the other way around. Because your boards are used to the big fundraising events more so than getting in the weeds of some of like the grant writing and those other things, although you do have board members that will do that. But if you're finding that your staff needs to be laser focused on programming, rely on your board to push that fundraising effort through.
Okay, that's good to know. We'll do that. Thank you.
They're still going to need care and feeding, though. And
yes, so somebody has to be there.
You need
handlers.
You need a dedicated staff member to kind of do the grunt work for them. For the most part, you want them to do the high level work and the connection work, the check writing work, and the asking for check work. You want them to make the asks, but you're still going to have to dedicate a person to the logistics and volunteers. You underneath the board, you also have people who aren't on your board, but you need a strong volunteer cadre. You know, for organizations doing organizing kind of work, it's a lot of your people who are, you know, the ones who are going to be at actions and who are volunteering generally. And depending on your setting, all kind of nonprofits really need a volunteer cadre. And in many ways, the board is really the highest level of that volunteer cadre.
And utilize them to bring in more volunteers.
Yeah, sure. If they're not that's a good idea. Yeah.
Even if they're not going to be board members. We have board members.
Just say bring people. Yeah.
Sometimes board members will make staff or assign staff to help them fulfill their board function. They'll have a staff member. They'll have do the things that the board member is supposed to do in terms of correspondence or things like that. So those things happen.
Sure, thank you. I took a note of that. Thank you.
So where are we now?
Group 2?
Yes, on our report, we have Netza. He mentioned that it's a small organization where he works, but they do dances. And like, for example, last year, they did a telethon over the phone. So those are some of the type of fundraising activities that the organization does. And he said that he has participated in them as well. And that the board is involved by grant writing and promoting the organization as well. He also mentioned that he participated in a board, and they're also recruiting for the board as well. And then Diego, he mentioned that they do have 3 annual events for raising for the whole agency as well as for the program. But they did not have one last year. Yeah, he has also participated as well. And the board makes donations, and they also sell tickets as well. And he has also been asked as well to participate in a board. And then from the agency I currently work at, right now, I'm not sure about the state of the funding. And the reason is because I'm a new staff to the organization. So I'm not sure about, that state of the agency when it comes to fundraising. I have not participated in fundraising so far. I guess it's because of how the short time I have been with the organization. But I know that the board it is involved when it comes to fundraising. And they're also looking for board members as well to join the organization. And let me know if there is anything else that you guys want to add, Diego or Netza.
I think you covered everything.
Yeah, I think so. Yes.
All right. So was there another group? Thank you very much. Was there another group?
Yes. I think that's us. So I was in a group with Rosie and Susan, and I took very brief notes. So feel free to jump in if I missed anything. But I think we are all involved in fundraising, but all of our organizations are in different places in terms of like the size of our budget and our funding mix. So, you know, we just kind of shared our perspectives from where we are. And I think some themes that I jotted down were that all of us kind of saw room to improve, particularly when it came to the process and the package that we talked about earlier. And all of us felt that our board were involved in fundraising, but it can be a mixed bag. So for example, both Susan's organization, the North Suburban Legal Aid Clinic, and mine do 2 big campaigns a year, and we're able to get the board involved in those, but some are heavy hitters and some are not. So it's just, you know, constantly trying to identify strategies that get more people involved. And with Rosie, she was talking about how her board are all workers, so they're from the community, and you know, involving them in the fundraising process is different, looks different than a board that is made up of, you know, kind of corporate leaders or people like that.
And I guess I got the sense that, you know, that's sort of their mandate. Rosie, you can jump in. It sounds like it's your mandate. So that's why I was saying that the suggestion of maybe having an ancillary board, advisory board that can do some of those other connecting and prospect management, prospect research with you, where you probably use the matrix to be a little bit more targeted in who you bring onto your advisory board, because you have a mandate for the organization board for that to be made up of workers. So there are ways around that to strengthen your fundraising in that regard.
Thank you, Florence. I think that's a good idea. I don't think we have thinking about a advisory board, but it's true, right? We have a board made of workers, and that's our bylaw says that. But I think that advisory board will help. So we are going to try to take that idea to our board and to the organization to see how that works. Thank you.
You're welcome. Was there a group 4?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, great.
Well, I thought that was a good discussion. You really got to see the wide variety of things that people have to consider in boards and fundraising and what people have experienced. And you can see maybe people, it sounded like people got some real concrete ideas about things they could adopt or explore.
Yeah. So if there are any more comments, questions, we can, I think we're moving to break, correct? So we're going to take a 30-minute break, you guys.